Christmas lights sparkled like diamonds strung across my dad's massive oak trees, the kind of suburban perfection that hides years of rot underneath. I pulled up to their Bay Area mansion in my old Jeep because showing up in my matte black Tesla would have raised questions and killed the engine before the headlights could hit the window. My palms were sweating, even though I had nothing to be ashamed of. At least, that's what I told myself. Inside, laughter echoed. My family's voices, sharp, familiar, judgmental, spilled out into the cold December air. Mom's signature laugh, that fake little high-pitched, "Oh, stop it, Bill," she used whenever Dad bragged to guests, made my stomach twist. I was 31, a single mom, and apparently the family's biggest disappointment. When I stepped through the door, the air smelled like roasted ham, cinnamon, and resentment. Everyone turned. My mom's pearl necklace glittered like frost as she looked me up and down. "You late, Hannah?" "I had to finish a few things," I said. "Work," she sneered, like it was a dirty word. "Yeah, work." I walked past my brother Kyle, who looked like he'd been sculpted from every ounce of Dad's approval. Princeton grad, finance job, wife from a good family. He didn't even bother hiding his smirk. "Wow, you made it. You bring the kid?" I felt my jaw tighten. Mason's with the sitter. Didn't think this was the kind of party for toddlers. Dad's voice boomed from the dining room. "You got that right." I followed the sound like I was walking into a trap. The table was perfect. White linen, gold napkin rings, wine glasses lined like soldiers. I used to think Christmas was magical here. Now it just looked staged. I sat down, and immediately Mom passed me the rolls like it was an act of charity. "So, how's that tech job? Still playing with computers?" I smiled because if I didn't, I'd say something that nuked the whole night. Something like that. Kyle's wife, Jessica, chimed in. "You know, Kyle just got promoted. He's handling big accounts now, real clients." "That's great. Congrats, Kyle." Kyle shrugged. "Yeah, I'm not trying to save the world or anything, just making money." I took a slow sip of my wine. Funny. I'm doing both. They didn't get it. They never would. My dad cut into his ham. The sound of his knife scraping the plate made my skin crawl. "You know, Hannah, there's no shame in admitting you made mistakes. You got pregnant young, made bad choices, and that's okay. But at some point, you gotta stop pretending you're better than everyone." I laughed, sharp and small. Who said I was pretending? He slammed his fork down. "Don't you start with me. You think because you got some job in San Francisco that you're someone now?" "Dad, no, you listen." His voice was thunder now, echoing through the room. "Your brother and his wife live clean, respectable lives. You're 31, unmarried, raising a kid alone, and acting like you're above this family. You should be grateful we even let you come around." Mom added softly, "We just worry about you, dear." That fake concern snapped something inside me. I leaned forward. "You worry about me? Or about what the neighbors think when they see I'm not wearing a ring?" Jessica tried to cover her laugh with a sip of wine. I looked her dead in the eye. "Something funny?" She froze. Kyle's hand went on her arm like he was saying, "Don't poke the bear." Dad stood up, red face. "That's enough. I won't have this kind of attitude in my house. You don't talk to your mother like that." "Like what? Honestly. Like trash," he barked. "You're a disgrace, Henna. To me, to this family." The room went quiet. The music stopped. Even the lights felt colder. Then he said it. "Get out." Mom gasped. "Bill!" "No," he said, pointing at me. "Get out of this house right now." I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood. For a second, I saw little flashes of every Christmas I'd spent there. Matching pajamas, burned cookies, fake smiles. It was all theater. So I smiled. Calm, collected. All right. That single word made him blink. I think he expected tears, a fight, some desperate apology. But I just picked up my coat and walked out into the icy night. Behind me, Mom's voice trembled. "Hannah, wait!" But I didn't. Outside, the world was silent, except for the faint hum of my phone buzzing in my pocket. A text from my assistant. "Transfer complete. All accounts set. Merry Christmas, boss." I stared at it for a second, the glow lighting up my frozen fingers. I almost laughed. They thought I was struggling. They thought I was the screw-up. They had no idea they were living off my money. Trusts, family investments, their house's second mortgage, all of it funded by the company I'd built from scratch. A company now worth $99 million. I got in my Jeep, started the engine, and drove toward the bridge lights reflecting off the bay. The city glittered ahead of me like a secret only I knew. My phone buzzed again. Another text, this one for my sitter. "He's asleep. You okay?" I smiled. Better than ever. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just drove. Past the house that rejected me, past the ghosts of my family's expectations, straight into the quiet night that finally felt mine. By the time I reached my apartment in the city, it was after midnight. I dropped my coat, poured a glass of wine, and sat by the window. The skyline looked alive. That's when I made the decision. I wasn't going to confront them with words, not with yelling or petty revenge. I was going to do it with silence and power. The next morning, they'd wake up to find their world frozen. Every allowance, every investment account, every trust fund locked. They'd panic, they'd call me, and this time, I wouldn't answer. Because nothing says Merry Christmas quite like watching a bunch of hypocrites realize the daughter they called a disgrace was the one holding their entire empire together. But this wasn't just about revenge. No, this was about truth. About finally showing them who I really was and who they'd been feeding off all along. And deep down, part of me wanted to know how far they'd go when their perfect little world started to collapse. Would they grovel or would they fight? Either way, they were about to find out that the quiet ones aren't weak. We're just patient. And I'd been patient for way too damn long. The next morning, I woke up to 30 missed calls, 2 voicemails, and 1 text from my mother that said, "Hannah, what did you do? Your father's furious. The bank says everything's frozen." I smirked, took a sip of my coffee, and whispered to myself, "Oh, Mom, this is just the beginning." My espresso machine hissed like it was applauding me. 30 missed calls, all from the same people who'd called me a disgrace just 12 hours earlier. Funny how fast tables turn when money stops flowing. I sat at my kitchen island in my silk robe, scrolling through the voicemails with a smirk. Dad's first message was all bluster. "Hannah, what the hell did you do? The trust accounts aren't accessible. Call me back immediately." The next one, softer. "Hannah, sweetheart, maybe there's been a mix-up. Your mother's worried sick." Then, finally, pure venom. "Don't you dare play games with me, young lady. You don't understand the consequences." Oh, I did. I understood them perfectly. Outside, the San Francisco skyline glowed like a row of electric crowns. My apartment, floor-to-ceiling glass, minimalist furniture, black marble counters, wasn't just expensive. It was earned. Every inch of it built from the nights I'd coded until sunrise, running on Red Bull and anger. My company, Waveline, had started as a side project, an AI platform that analyzed consumer behavior for luxury brands. Within 3 years, it exploded.
I'd signed contracts with some of the biggest tech giants in Silicon Valley, but no one in my family knew. I'd kept it quiet, funneling some of the profits into family trusts under my accountant's careful setup. It kept them comfortable and me invisible. Until last night. My phone rang again. Mom. I took a sip of my coffee, then answered. Morning. Hannah, thank God. Listen, your father's about to lose it. The bank says everything's frozen. Our savings, the mortgage account, even Kyle's business loan. Did something happen with the company? I swirled my coffee lazily. Which company, Mom? Don't play dumb. The investments your father made through you. The family accounts. Right. The ones under my name. A pause. Well, yes, technically under your name, but funded by my money. She hesitated. Sweetheart, you know your father's been handling family finances for decades. Mom, I think that's kind of the problem. Hannah, please. We can't pay the staff. Kyle has bills due. Your father has meetings. I laughed softly. So what? I'm sure he can figure it out. He's always telling me to take responsibility for my actions. Guess it's his turn. Hannah, this isn't funny. No, Mom, it's actually hilarious. I hung up. That silence after the call? Music. Within minutes, my messages started blowing up again. Kyle, of course, was next. Kyle, WTF, Hannah? The accounts are locked. Dad's losing it. What did you do? Kyle, if this is about last night, grow up. Kyle, this is serious. You can't just screw us over like this. I stared at his messages and typed back one word. Watch me. It felt too good, too easy. Still, a small part of me, the version that once begged for their approval, felt a flicker of guilt. But then I remembered Dad's voice shouting disgrace like it was my middle name. I remembered Mom's look of embarrassment every time I showed up alone. I remember being 21, pregnant, abandoned by Mason's father, and calling home for help, only to hear, "You made your bed, Hannah." So, yeah, guilt didn't last long. By noon, I was in the Waveline headquarters in Soma. Glass walls, abstract art, and the low hum of innovation. My assistant Lacey handed me a coffee and whispered, "The board loved the numbers. You're officially a tech unicorn, boss." I said quietly, $99 million valuation. Not bad for a single mom. She grinned. Not bad at all. Oh, and you've got like 20 voicemails labeled family emergency. Should I delete them? She blinked. All of them? Every single one. Lacey gave a low whistle. Cold. I smiled. Calculated. The rest of the day passed in a blur of investor calls and strategy meetings. But between the numbers and contracts, my mind kept drifting back to my parents' panic. I could practically hear them pacing that perfect mansion, realizing their lifestyle. Maids, private golf memberships, Kyle's Tesla was hanging by a thread I'd been holding all along. That night, I picked up Mason from daycare. His curly hair bounced as he ran to me, arms open wide. "Mommy!" I scooped him up. "Hey, buddy, you hungry?" He nodded eagerly. "Pizza!" We ordered takeout, built a blanket fort in the living room, and watched The Grinch. Somewhere between Mason's giggles and the sound of rain hitting the windows, I felt something I hadn't in years. Peace. Real, untouchable peace. And yet, under it all, a storm was brewing. By Christmas night, the entire family group chat was chaos. Mom begging for calm, Dad threatening lawyers, Kyle calling me names I won't repeat. Then came the unexpected one. Jessica. Jessica. I know it's not my place, but you should know something about Kyle. That got my attention. Me. Go on. She hesitated, then sent a photo. A screenshot. Messages. From Kyle to someone named Leela. Can't wait to get away from my crazy wife and that psycho sister. My breath hitched. Psycho sister? I scrolled down. There were more. Flirty texts, photos, plans. Oh, this was gold. Me. Why are you sending me this? Jessica, because I'm done pretending your family's perfect, and because your father blames me for last night. He said I embarrassed them. I just thought you should know who you're really defending. I stared at the messages, a slow smirk spreading. Kyle, the golden boy, the heir, the one Dad trusted with everything. Cheating, lying, reckless. And suddenly, I realized something. Freezing their money wasn't enough. Not yet. I needed to break their illusion. Make them see that I was never the problem. That night, as Mason slept, I poured another glass of wine and opened my laptop. I pulled up every file, every ledger, every hidden transfer I'd made under family investments. They thought those accounts were Dad's, but every penny was traceable back to me. I drafted one email, short, simple, lethal. To William Langston, Dad, Margaret Langston, Mom, Kyle Langston. Subject, Merry Christmas. Since honesty is apparently off limits in this family, I'll keep this simple. The family investments you've been living off for the last 3 years, they're mine. Funded through Waveline Technologies, founded, owned, and built by me. You're welcome for the lifestyle. Consider this an early inheritance freeze. You'll get access again when I decide you've earned it. Merry Christmas. I hit send and leaned back, feeling the buzz of power settle deep in my bones. The next morning, I woke up to an inbox explosion. News alerts, financial reports. Somehow the freeze had caught media attention. Langston Family Holdings frozen by internal account lock. I stared at the headline and laughed out loud. The irony was cinematic. The same people who'd built their reputation on legacy wealth now couldn't access a dime, and the public was starting to notice. By mid-morning, reporters were outside their gated home. Dad hated cameras. That alone made me grin. But the best part? The message I got from Jessica. Jessica, you did it, didn't you? Me. What do you mean? Jessica, you broke them. Kyle is losing it, your mom is crying, and your dad is trying to call in favors. I think he's scared. Me. Good. Jessica, Hannah, whatever you're planning next, I'm in. I stared at her message for a long time. Maybe I had underestimated Jessica. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the only one ready to burn the old version of this family to the ground. But something in her tone, something about that "I'm in," made me pause. Because the last time someone said those words to me, they didn't mean help. They meant manipulation, and I couldn't shake the feeling that Jessica had her own cards to play. That night, a black SUV parked outside my building. I watched from my window as a man in a suit stepped out. Broad shoulders, shark jaw, holding an envelope. He didn't ring my doorbell. He just slid the envelope under my door and walked away. When I picked it up, my blood ran cold. Inside was a single note. You think you're in control, Hannah, but someone else owns the game.
The note felt like a cold thing in my palm, like the paper itself was accusing me. Whoever slid it under my door knew how to make an entrance without being noticed. The handwriting was neat and precise, the ink black as a threat. Someone with class. Someone who wanted me to feel small. You think you're in control, Hannah, but someone else owns the game. I read it twice, then folded it and put it on the coffee table like it was evidence in some twisted crime show. My first instinct was to laugh it off, paranoid rich people writing threatening notes to make themselves feel dramatic. But the writer had a confidence I recognized. Quiet, precise. The kind of confidence you only earn when you understand systems. Banks, ledgers, legal loopholes. The kind of confidence I had once had and kept having, but apparently someone else wanted to remind me of their shadow. Lacey barged in with a stack of investor packets and a grin. Okay, boss, you can't ignore the press. They're having a field day. CNBC called, Vogue wants a statement. You want me to craft something neutral? Family dispute, business unaffected? Or shall we go scorched earth? Scorched earth is kind of the brand, I said, flipping the envelope over with my pinky. But not yet. Let them burn on their own. She cocked an eyebrow. You sure? People are saying you weaponized your own family wealth. Some hate you, some think it's poetic justice. I pictured Dad on the front lawn, hair ruffled, yelling into a line of reporters. I pictured Kyle pacing, calling in favors, thinking he could smooth it over with an apology or some tears. They didn't get the math of it. They thought money was muscle. I knew money was leverage, algorithm, and leverage again. Pull the right thread and the whole sweater unravels. Lacey, I said, sliding the note toward her. This was under my door. You see anyone on the security cams? She swiped her phone and frowned. Nope, lobby footage is weird. There's a 90-second gap at 2 in the morning. I flagged it with building security. Put someone on it and activate the perimeter cameras for tonight. She nodded and left, the heels of her shoes clicking like punctuation. I opened the group chat with Jessica again. A new message. Jessica, you up? Can we talk? I'm paranoid, but I think I found something else. We met at a coffee shop near my office. No cameras, no pretense. Jessica looked different in daylight. Mascara smudged, eyes tired, but there was a raw honesty I'd never seen before. Her wedding band glinted and felt like a lie between us. Are you okay? I asked. She hugged her hands around her cup like it was a life preserver. I can't take it anymore, Henna. Your dad called me last night, said I humiliated the family. Told me I needed to fix things. Said if I didn't, he'd cut me off. That's when I knew it's always been about money, about control. Then why the texts about Kyle? I asked. She slid her phone across the table. He's been sneaking out, Henna. Leela's not a one-off. And she swallowed. He's taking unsecured loans against the family holdings since last quarter. He's gambling our trust on deals he can't prove. My pulse picked up. Kyle looked like a polished chrome boat on calm water to everyone else. But under the hull, something was sinking. Why tell me? I asked. Jessica's voice dropped to a whisper. Because I'm scared. And because when I tried to confront him, he said something that made me nauseous. If this blows up, your spot in this family is done. Bill will make sure you never see a cent. He means it, Henna. He knows how to play the game, and if your dad calls on favors, people will listen. She wasn't asking to join me. She was warning me that a bigger player had cards I hadn't seen. Someone who could pull strings beyond our little Langston drama. Who told you about the loans? I asked. She hesitated. Kyle brags when he drinks. He told me about a partner, someone he met through angel circles, a backer, foreign. Clean on paper. Not our kind of people. That name, foreign, clean on paper, was a flag. In my world, clean often meant laundering, and foreign often meant half a network overseas and half a political problem. Someone with pockets deeper than Dad's and no moral compass. Okay, I said slowly. Good intel. Stay by your phone. Don't go home alone. If he starts playing tough, we call the press. Exposure derails favors and makes it hard for him to leverage contacts. Her mouth twitched into a sad smile. You sound like you enjoy this. I enjoy winning, I corrected. Not this drama. We talk strategies, what to leak, what to withhold, until the shop closed and the barista flicked lights like a judgment. On my way out, my phone buzzed with a blocked number. A voicemail auto-transcribed into garbled words. Henna, stop. Danger. Walk away. I deleted it. Best not to give panic a voice. Back at the office, legal called. My in-house counsel, Mateo, had a face that only lawyers can wear. Funny, empathetic, but made of steel. We gotta talk, he said without preamble. I sound like a man who's read the papers, I said. We have a lawsuit threat. Dad's lawyer, someone named Voss, sent a cease and desist demanding immediate release of funds and alleging unauthorized transactions. Also, his PR team is pushing a narrative that you're emotionally unstable and making reckless decisions which could harm Waveline's image. Investors are jittery. Of course they are, I said. We're not negotiating on optics. We negotiate on law. Mateo, how airtight is our setup? Tight enough, he said. You created the trusts according to legal counsel. The accounts are under a discretionary irrevocable trust with certain triggers. You have the authority to freeze disbursements under Clause 32. But Dad's team will file emergency motions. We can fight it, but public perception is a fast-acting toxin. Then we starve the narrative, I said. Release a controlled statement. Waveline operates independently. The freeze is a private family matter with no impact on our clients. Emphasize stability. And the lawsuits? Mateo asked. Let them burn. They'll have to subpoena my books to make anything stick, which they'll do in public, and then everyone sees the receipts. He looked at me, a mixture of admiration and worry. You know this escalates, right? They'll get desperate. People who have been desperate before tend to act unpredictably. Then we build a safe room, I said. No surprises. He nodded and left, the office doors whispering shut like they were sealing us in. That night, reporters camped outside the Langston mansion, their breaths showing in the cold like ghosts. Social feeds were splitting. #HennaHero trended next to #BadDaughter. Strangers sent me DMs, some praising, some vile. I read only a few. At home, Mason asked about Santa like it was the most delicate thing in the world. Mommy, will Santa still come if Grandpa's mad? He asked, eyes wide and earnest. My chest melted. For him, Christmas was about magic, not bank freezes. Santa only cares if you're kind, buddy, I said, tucking his blanket. Not about grown-up stuff. He slept like the world was simple and perfect. I stood in the doorway, watched his chest rise and fall, and felt a surge of something complicated. Protection, rage, and a solemn promise that I'd build a life where he never had to be ashamed. I poured another glass of wine and turned on the news. They were showing a clip of Dad stepping outside, bristling, trying to smile for cameras like a man pretending calm in the middle of a storm. I kept waiting for some new development, the mysterious backer, Dad's network activating, but nothing yet, just the usual. Quotes from family friends, annals of legacy, and pundits determining which daughter fit which role in the American drama. Then at 2 a.m, my door buzzer buzzed. 3 short rings. My heart did something weird. I didn't buzz anyone up. There was a soft knock instead. Quiet. Deliberate. Someone who knew my habits. Someone who had patience. I opened the door to find a man in a plain coat, face half in shadow. He handed me a card and didn't speak. On the card was an emblem I recognized, an abstract wave and 2 words underneath. Waveline partner. My throat tightened. I stuffed the card into my pocket and closed the door. The card was a reminder that in the game of power, alliances shift fast. A partner could be a friend or a traitor. Someone in that building had decided to test me, to see how I'd respond when faced with a threat that whispered instead of screamed. I slid the card across my kitchen counter and dialed Mateo. We have company, I said. The next morning, an unmarked envelope arrived at Waveline's front desk addressed to me. Inside, a single USB drive and a sticky note that read, "We don't play fair, neither should you." I clicked the drive open at my desk, and the first file that loaded made my stomach drop. A surveillance video of Dad and a man I didn't recognize, meeting in a dim parking garage, arguing, exchanging a thick envelope. Whoever recorded it wanted me to see that my family wasn't just vulnerable, they were deeply compromised.
The footage ran grainy and slow, like it had been captured through a windshield. Dad was wearing his signature navy coat, hands clenched in his pockets. The other guy, taller, slick, foreign accent if the muffled audio was right, handed him an envelope thick enough to break rules. Dad counted through it like he was born for corruption. Then he nodded, said something that made the other man flinch, and walked away. I leaned back in my chair, pulse spiking. Whoever filmed this had access. Real access. Cameras near private parking levels weren't supposed to exist without city clearance, which meant someone powerful wanted me to know my father was already compromised. Mateo came in before I even called him. We traced the USB metadata. No IP, air-gapped device. Whoever delivered it knew what they were doing. Looks like Dad's been playing with someone new, I said, scrubbing through the clip. You know this guy? Mateo froze the frame, squinted. Yeah, I've seen him at investor events. Luca Sarin, Eastern European Venture Fund, rumored to wash oligarch money through startups. Sketchy, but careful. So my brother's mystery backer isn't just a rumor, they're in deep with the same man Dad's meeting in parking garages. Mateo nodded slowly. If Luca's involved, he's not doing it for small change. He's embedding himself into your family structure. The freeze probably blocked something much bigger than a few trust payments. Which explains the threats, I muttered. They're not mad about humiliation, they're terrified I've cut off a pipeline. I forwarded the video to an encrypted drive and shut the laptop. Mateo, lock down Waveline servers. Audit every partner agreement in the last 12 months. If Lucas tried to slip in under a shell company, I want to know yesterday. He nodded, eyes sharp. You planning to go public with this? Not yet, I said. Let them think I'm rattled. Then I'll decide whose career gets detonated first. That night, I didn't sleep. Every creak in my penthouse sounded like a footstep. I'd built firewalls thicker than concrete, but I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was inside already. Digitally, maybe physically. At sunrise, I took Mason to preschool. He kissed my cheek and said, "Don't let the mean people win, Mommy." Simple words, but they lit something fierce in me. When I got back to headquarters, Jessica was waiting in the lobby in oversized sunglasses. She said, "We need to talk," voice trembling. I took her upstairs, poured her coffee, and locked the door. What happened? She slid her phone over again. New photos, same Luca. That's him. I saw him at Kyle's office this morning. He left 5 minutes before Kyle did. I followed. He went straight to a private airstrip in Palo Alto. Leaving the country? Or cleaning up whatever mess your freeze caused. She leaned in, whispering, "Henna, I think Kyle's signing over assets under the table. If Luca's pulling strings, they're moving family funds into his offshore accounts before you can report it." For a second, my heart stuttered. "You're sure?"
She nodded. I overheard Kyle on the phone. He said, "She can't freeze what she doesn't know exists." Rage flared, hot and controlled. "Cute line," I said. "Let's make him regret saying it." I opened my laptop, launched a back-end admin portal that almost no one knew existed. My secret failsafe, something I'd built when I still trusted no one. It mapped every transaction connected to Langston Holdings. Within minutes, a string of unregistered LLCs popped up. Shell accounts linked to Wyoming and Malta. "Found them," I whispered. "Kyle's draining site accounts through Lucas Fund. That's money from my tech royalties." Jessica stared. "Can you stop it?" "Oh, honey," I said, fingers flying over the keyboard. "I can do better than that." I rerouted every illegal transfer into a temporary escrow account under legal review, flagged each one as potential fraud. Within seconds, the funds were quarantined. Lucas' system would throw alerts. He'd know someone smarter had pulled the plug. Jessica exhaled. "He's gonna lose his mind." "Good," I said. "Let's see how Golden Boy handles poverty." By noon, Kyle called. I didn't answer. He texted instead. "Kyle, you crossed a line." "Me. I built the line." Half an hour later, Mom called. I let it ring, then answered on speaker while Jessica listened. "Henna, what did you do?" she demanded. "Kyle says you're sabotaging the family. Your father's blood pressure is through the roof." "Maybe he should see a doctor instead of a money launderer," I said. "Don't you dare talk about your father that way. He's trying to protect us." "From what?" I snapped. "Accountability?" Silence stretched. Then Mom whispered, "You've become cruel." "No," I said quietly. "I've become free." I hung up before she could weaponize guilt again. Jessica looked at me with a strange mix of fear and admiration. "You're terrifying when you're calm, she said. Calm keeps me in power. Panic gets you played. Later that evening, Lacey burst into my office, eyes wide. You need to see this. She pulled up a live feed, financial news again. But this time it wasn't about me. It was about them. The headline read, Langston family under federal investigation for suspicious transfers. I froze. Who leaked that? Not us, but someone wants the feds involved. Jessica covered her mouth. Luca? Maybe, I said slowly. Or maybe someone inside the bureau who already had eyes on them. My phone buzzed again. Mateo. Henna, brace yourself. I didn't sleep that night. The glow from the monitors painted my walls blue while I tracked the flight path again and again. Luca's Gulfstream G700, tail number N972LS, had lifted from Palo Alto at 10:03 p.m., squawked its transponder twice over Monterey Bay, then went dark 40 minutes later. FAA data said signal loss. Aviation blog said routine gap. My gut said bullshit. Mateo showed up before sunrise with black coffee and a grim face. I called a friend at the bureau, he said. The plane's not on any manifest. They think it might have switched IDs mid-air. Meaning someone spoofed the transponder, I said. Classic ghost flight. Meaning your brother might be in international airspace with people who don't plan to bring him back. I rubbed my temples. Or he staged it. Mateo frowned. Why would Kyle fake a disappearance? To buy time, to make me the villain in absentia. He handed me a printout. Luca's fund holdings. We traced shell accounts through Estonia, Belize, and Nevada. Guess whose trust money is parked alongside? Your father's pension fund. My jaw locked. So the Langston legacy's tied to foreign laundering? Worse, he said. Some of the transfers route through Waveline's early-stage investor pools. If Luca goes down, we get splashed. Then we control the narrative before it controls us. Lacey burst in with a tablet in hand. Breaking! Langston Technology stock dropped 12% overnight. Hashtag Vanishing Kyle and hashtag Langston Gate are trending. Reporters are calling this the tech family implosion of the decade. I laughed once, dry. Perfect. America loves a dynasty burning at Christmas. Mateo leaned forward. Henna, this isn't just optics anymore. If the feds connect Luca's network to Waveline, they'll freeze your personal accounts pending review. I met his gaze. Then we get ahead of it. Leak what we want them to see. He hesitated. Selective confession? Controlled transparency, I said. I feed them a sanitized trail that points to Luca as the puppet master and me as the whistleblower. They'll treat me like the hero cleaning house. Lacey whistled. That's evil genius. Thanks, babe. Let's make it art. By noon, our digital team had scrubbed every suspicious line of code, rewritten audit logs, and staged an anonymous tip to an investigative journalist known for torching corrupt investors. Within an hour, she posted a thread. Sources close to Waveline confirm CEO cooperating with authorities to expose foreign interference in U.S. tech funding. The retweets exploded. Narrative flipped. Suddenly, I wasn't the villain. I was the patriot. Still, the silence around Kyle's flight.
Henna, what if it's real? Then Luca cleaned house. But if it's fake, Kyle's somewhere working his next move. Jessica started crying quietly. I didn't want this. Neither did I. But wanting didn't matter anymore. That night, I drove up the coast. Phone off, windows down. Malibu Inner smelled like salt and second chances. I parked by the cliffs and let the ocean sound drown the noise. My reflection in the glass looked older, sharper. Maybe revenge ages you faster than love. A black SUV rolled up behind me. My pulse spiked until the window lowered and I saw Mateo. You're hard to tail, boss, he said. You followed me? You're the country's most searched CEO. Of course I did. He handed me a folder. Preliminary FBI summary. Someone inside the Langston Trust cooperated early. They gave the Bureau an encrypted drive with internal ledgers, dated before your freeze. That's how the feds moved so quick. My throat tightened. Who? They're redacting names, but from context, it's your father. I almost laughed. Of course. He throws his own son under the jet to save his skin. Henna, if he's cooperating, he's angling immunity. They'll paint him as the deceived patriarch. I stared at the dark waves. Then I'll be the deceiver who exposes him anyway. He sighed. You sure you want to torch what's left? There's nothing left, I said. Only evidence. Over the next 2 days, I turned my penthouse into war room. Screens lit up with transaction maps, color-coded threads, connecting family trusts, foreign funds, Luca's shell LLCs. Every arrow ended in one name, Langston Holdings LLC, board authorization, William Langston. Dad. Jessica stayed over, pacing, chain-drinking diet sodas. If the feds raid him, he'll drag you in. I'll drag first. Henna, he's still your father. I looked up from the glowing mess of data, and monsters are still mammals doesn't make them family. She flinched, but didn't argue. By the third night, fatigue made me reckless. I opened the anonymous inbox again. A new message sat at the top. You think you control the game. Look behind your servers. Attached was a still image of my security room feed. Me, last night, asleep on the couch. The angle was impossible. Someone was inside my network again. I jolted up, heart hammering. Mateo, we've been breached. He arrived within minutes, hair damp from rain, laptop open before he set. Entry points physical. Somebody installed a repeater device on your server rack. That's how they're watching you. How long? Maybe a week? Whoever it is has administrative keys. He pulled out the tiny bug when we found it, disguised as an HDMI adapter. I stared at it, fury humming under my skin. Burn it. He smashed it with his heel. You know what this means, right? They're not just tracking data, they're in your home. I scanned the windows. Malibu glittered below, too beautiful to be real. Then we stopped waiting. Next morning, I made the call to the journalist we'd used before. You want the real story? I said. Meet me at the Waveline campus in 1 hour. Bring a camera. When she arrived, I gave her just enough. Hints of foreign interference, evidence of hidden accounts, Dad's ties to Luca. Within hours, headlines flipped again. Waveline CEO blows whistle on international laundering ring. My inbox filled with praise. Investors calm. By sunrise, my Malibu windows looked like screens themselves, gray light flickering across the glass as if the sky were buffering. The box sat on my counter like a threat with a pulse. I kept staring at the wing charm inside it, trying to decode whether it meant crash, freedom, or family lineage burning to ash. My phone vibrated. Mateo. Say it, I answered. They confirmed it's a staged crash, he said. No remains, no DNA. Kyle's officially MIA, which means Luca's alive too, I said. He hesitated. Or Kyle took him out and hijacked the accounts. Either way, I said, someone's still playing with my servers. I drove to Waveline HQ before the PR teams woke up. Empty parking lot, tinted dawn. Inside the glass atrium, everything smelled like sterilized ambition. Ozone, marble polish, leftover espresso. I went straight to the sub-basement where the core servers hummed like angry bees. The cooling fans masked the pounding in my chest. Mateo followed, carrying a Pelican case of tools. We scan again, top to root, I said. He nodded, already plugging in. The network lit on his screen, nodes blinking in white lines like constellations. There, he said, pointing. See that ghost IP? 147.202.88.113. It's piggybacking on your internal VPN. Trace it. It's bouncing through a cloud relay in Reykjavik. But here's the kicker. It's authenticating with a legacy key. Legacy meaning... He turned the laptop toward me. It's your key, Henna, created day 1 of Waveline. My stomach dropped. Impossible. I revoked every founder credential after the acquisition. Then somebody cloned your biometric profile. I thought of the security feed still from the night before, me sleeping. Someone had access to my face, my fingerprints, my everything. I said, lock the servers, go offline now. He typed fast. The hum around us deepened as the system started sealing itself. Lights flickered, then a line of code scrolled by, red text on black. Hello again, Henna. Nice network. Mateo swore. They're in real time. This isn't a dump, it's a conversation. Pull the plug. He yanked the main fiber. Everything went dark. Silence. Just our breathing. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number, encrypted channel. I opened it. A voice note played, distorted, male. You freeze money. We freeze blood. TikTok. I didn't move. Mateo's face went pale. Forward that to Lacey. She can scrub the metadata. I forwarded it. But deep down, I knew what the message meant. Kyle had always loved metaphors. Blood was family. TikTok meant he'd already started the countdown. By the time the team arrived upstairs, the media had a new headline. Langston whistleblower under threat amid international cyber investigation. Lacey ran to me waving her phone. You're trending at number 2. Only Taylor Swift's engagement beat you. Great, I said. Maybe she'll write me a breakup song when my brother detonates my servers. She blinked. Wait, what? Nothing. Just lock the PR channels and call our legal chief. I want NDAs triple tight. Mateo cornered me near the elevators. We need safe hardware, off-grid. I've got a Faraday lab in Venice. We rebuild your core there. Do it. And track that Reykjavik IP. If it moves, I want eyes. By noon, we were in the Venice warehouse. Exposed brick, surfboards, racks of GPUs running silent as sharks. Mateo's crew patched in a cold system. No cloud, no Wi-Fi, no corporate leaks. He slid me a burner laptop. From here, nobody spies unless they stand right behind you. Comforting, I said, powering it up. The first dataset we pulled wasn't financial. It was personal. A hidden directory buried inside my father's old backups. Folders labeled Daughters, Paternity, Clause 7A. My pulse spiked. Inside Clause 7A sat a PDF. Private Trust Amendment, Langston Holdings, 2018. It listed beneficiaries: William Langston, Kyle Langston, Jessica Langston, and I stopped. Luca Vance. Why is Luca listed as family? I whispered. Mateo leaned closer. Clause 7A transfers partial control to him.
And maybe blood, Mateo said quietly. We don't know what your father did before you were born. The room tilted for a second. The betrayal went deeper than money. It was genetic. If Luca's a Langston by blood, I said, then Kyle's disappearance ties directly to that clause. He's eliminating rivals. Mateo nodded. And you're next on the list. We barely had time to breathe before Lacey burst in again, faced ghost white. Federal Cyber Task Force just served Waveline with a seizure warrant. They're moving tonight. How? I asked. The investigation was supposed to stay sealed. She swallowed. Somebody leaked our internal timestamp logs. They're saying you faked crash data to manipulate stock prices. That's impossible, Mateo said. Those logs were on our closed server. I stared at him. The one that used my cloned key? Exactly. We started moving fast. Mateo wiped drives, Lacey shredded files. I stuffed physical contracts into a duffel. My phone kept vibrating. Journalists, lawyers, my mother. I ignored all of it until one message stopped me cold. From, unknown, run, he's already inside. I looked up. Mateo, security feed. He pulled up the infrared cams. One figure, black clothes, moving through the lower hall. Armed? Looks like it. He reached for his gun drawer. Stay behind me. We crept toward the stairwell. The hum of servers masked every footstep.
Then, metal creak. A shadow crossed the glass. Mateo swung the door open. Empty. Just the sound of the Pacific outside. Then a voice from the dark. Still hiding behind mercenaries, sister? Kyle. He stepped from the shadows, thinner, tanner, eyes like carved ice. You really thought you could erase me with a fake crash? I thought you did that yourself. He smirked. Luca's dead. Plane was his. I just borrowed the illusion. Then who sent the note? Someone cleaning the board. And trust me, Henna, you're not at the top anymore. Mateo raised his weapon, one step closer. Kyle lifted a small device, a detonator. You shoot, we all disappear. The servers go with us. Why? I demanded. Because legacy belongs to the one who survives. Dad signed Waveline seed money from the trust. Without that, your empire is built on fraud. My hands shook, but my voice didn't. Then I will burn the whole record before I let you own it. He laughed, low. Already did. He pressed the trigger. Nothing. Mateo lunged, slammed him against the wall. The device clattered. Fake, Mateo spat. Kyle grinned through blood. Test run. The real one's in the vault under HQ. We cuffed him with industrial ties. I leaned close. You underestimate me again, brother. He whispered, No, I overestimated your mercy. Police arrived 10 minutes later, courtesy of an anonymous tip I may or may not have sent from my backup line. They took him, still smiling like he knew a secret I didn't. As the sirens faded, Mateo looked at me. You think he really planted something at HQ? I exhaled. Yes. And tomorrow we find out how big. That night, I couldn't stop replaying his words. The real one's in the vault. I pulled the wing charm from The rain-slicked streets reflected the neon glow of Palo Alto as I sprinted from my car to the old Waveline prototype lab, heart hammering, pulse synced to the countdown ticking on the central screen. 005958. Mateo was behind me, muttering under his breath about law enforcement, explosives, and corporate liability. But I couldn't focus on caution, not when every second felt like a shot fired at my legacy. Inside, the hum of servers was deafening, a low-frequency vibration that set my teeth on edge, and every blinking node was a reminder that Kyle, or whoever was playing puppet with him, had beaten me to my own digital playground. I slammed my hands on the console, fingers flying over keys that no one but me and my original team could touch, the screen pulsing as encrypted folders decrypted themselves in real time. And then I saw it. A file labeled Clause 7A, Activation Protocol, with the timestamps synchronized to the countdown, its contents blurred until I hovered over the text. My stomach dropped. It wasn't a legal clause. It was a trigger, a cascade of automatic authorizations, shell company releases, cross-border transfers, and coded instructions that would liquidate every Linkston-linked asset and funnel them through offshore accounts if I didn't stop it. Mateo grabbed my arm. Henna, do you know what this is? I nodded, fingers shaking. Legacy failsafe. Dad always wanted someone to inherit clean. He never counted on me seeing it. The screen revealed the cruel brilliance. Luca's name appeared in multiple beneficiary fields, alongside encrypted keys that tied the vault, Waveline's cloud backup, and Dad's trust in one perfect, unstoppable chain. Whoever designed this knew me, knew my patterns, knew I'd check the vault coordinates first, and that I'd move faster if I thought Mason or our family fortune was in danger. Every second, the countdown clicked down, and I traced the network paths, realizing this was not just about money, but control, inheritance, and leverage that could rewrite ownership of tech empires in one coded sweep. I initiated a containment protocol, isolating the triggers, but the system fought back, algorithms designed to detect and counter human interference, forcing me into a chess match with my father's ghost, my brother's hubris, and Luca's shadow. Mateo called over my shoulder. Henna, they're locking us out node by node.
But I ignored him, following the threads like a hunter on a scent, unraveling each shell company link, bypassing firewalls, reverse engineering encrypted instructions. Sweat soaked my shirt, rain outside turning to mist as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then a file popped up, a personal video, time-stamped from the day Dad amended Clause 7A, showing him signing documents while Luca watched over his shoulder. The camera panned to a small, almost hidden signature stamp, my mother's initials. Betrayal upon betrayal. I realized that Mom had known, or at least enabled some of this. Rage and grief collided. I grit my teeth and focused. The countdown ticked 004532. I initiated a full digital lockdown, rerouting all asset flows into temporary legal escrow accounts, quarantining them so fast that even Luca's system registered the activity as an anomaly. Matteo breathed heavily behind me. Henna, if you trigger the next line, it could erase everything, including legitimate Waveline holdings. I paused, hands hovering, knowing that hesitation could cost me more than money. It could cost me control, influence, maybe even Mason's future. Then a new alert. Security cameras throughout Palo Alto Labs were activating remotely, showing a figure moving toward the physical vault. Kyle. He grinned at the camera like a man who'd already won a round, holding a device that I recognized instantly. A manual override capable of triggering Clause 7A's final sweep. Henna, Matteo hissed. He's inside the building. I spun, scanning the servers, tracing the override's digital signature back to a locked subnode, an impossibly fast encryption that matched the original 2018 design. I realized I had to make a choice: engage manually and risk the system detecting intrusion, or isolate the node and cut power entirely, risking total data loss. Fingers shaking, I bypassed the secondary firewall, creating a mirror environment while the countdown dipped under 003000. The mirrored environment held for 30 precious seconds before the system tried to lock out, sending alerts in the form of ghosted IPs, phantom scripts, and scrambled text taunting me. Hello, Henna. Legacy is everything. I cursed, rerouted power to fail-safes, and initiated a triple-pass security quarantine, the kind of maneuver only I could pull off because I built the original framework. Matteo watched, jaw tight, whispering, "You're insane." I didn't answer. I was tracing the final transfer instructions to ensure that every dollar, every shell, every coded authorization stopped short of Luca's hands. Then, a breach alert. A private drone outside the lab's skylight. Someone was watching. The countdown clicked 001547. Matteo pulled a gun, eyes wide. They're going to try to force entry. I pressed the last override keys, an encrypted lockdown that would trap Kyle in the system's physical interface if he crossed the threshold. The final seconds approached. The digital clock blinked 000510. My heart was hammering in my throat, fingers raw from typing. And then a final video popped up on the screen. Luca, alive, holding a microchip, smiling, whispering directly to me, "You found the code, Henna, but the game isn't over." Clause 7A was never just about money. It's about blood, empire, and who deserves the throne. Finish it, or lose everything. Matteo swore under his breath. I swallowed, realizing that even if I secured the assets, even if Kyle stayed trapped and the server survived, the inheritance, what my father built, what my mother enabled, what my brother gambled, was a puzzle designed to haunt me forever. The countdown finally hit 00001. Silence. Then the screen flashed a single message, pulsing white across the room. Legacy transfer initiated. Verify, Henna Langston, to complete. And I knew, deep in my chest, that the next move wasn't just a choice, it was a declaration. I was either going to claim my empire, expose my family's betrayals, and survive the storm, or I would watch every last piece of my world dissolve in the code my father had left behind. Every ghost, every secret, every shadow in Waveline's empire converged in that moment, and I pressed my finger to the biometric scanner, heart hammering, knowing the true Clause 7A
The real legacy was about to reveal itself. The biometric scanner beeped once, then twice, and the screen blinked, verified. Hannah Langston, transfer authorized. My stomach twisted as a digital cascade erupted across the mirrored servers. Assets moving, accounts locking, shell companies collapsing, codes reversing, all in real time. Mateo leaned over, eyes wide, whispering, "You did it. All of it." I barely registered him, focused on the flowing network map. Waveline Holdings, Langston Trusts, offshore accounts, all rerouted into temporary legal escrows I controlled. The kind of digital fortresses that even Luca or Kyle couldn't touch without triggering alarms. Outside, the storm hadn't let up, rain slashing the glass, and somehow it matched the chaos inside me. Relief, fear, triumph, and a pulse of adrenaline that burned hotter than whiskey. I opened the first decrypted ledger and froze. Dad's amendments, Mom's initials, Kyle's manipulations, all laid bare, intertwined like a genetic code for greed. Every dollar I froze wasn't just finance. It was leverage, history, inheritance rewritten by my hands, proof that the family I'd grown up under was nothing more than a series of transactions I now commanded. Notifications exploded. Emails from journalists, regulators, and investors asking for interviews, clarifications, verification of the Langston whistleblower event. I forwarded only the sanitized threads, ensuring the narrative painted me as savior, as the woman who outsmarted foreign manipulators, traitorous family members, and corporate saboteurs in one fell swoop. Mateo patched in alerts from internal sensors. Kyle had attempted to breach the physical vault. Drone cams caught him trying to override security, but every attempt was logged, isolated, and trapped in a sandbox that fed him false data while real transactions proceeded uninterrupted. I smirked, imagining his frustration as his own systems fed him lies while I held the truth. Then the encrypted video from Luca played automatically on the main screen, his smirk replaced by a mask of irritation. Impressive, but you've only delayed the inevitable. Clause 7A was never meant for a single victor. You can control the flow of assets, but you can't control what's already been set in motion. I leaned forward, pulse loud in my ears. Oh, I think I just did. Across the servers, alerts indicated automatic freezes and transfers had overridden every pre-programmed beneficiary except me. A final testament to my understanding of every line of code, every legacy rule, every exploit my father had embedded over decades. Mateo exhaled, rubbing his eyes. He's pissed. I smiled, dark, controlled, letting the realization sink in. Every investor, every regulator, every journalist now had a story they couldn't ignore. Me, Hannah Langston, rewriting an empire while my family collapsed under its own deceit. And then a secondary alert, a hidden folder in Dad's old backups I hadn't noticed before, labeled personal, emergency. My pulse skipped. Opening it, I found files coded with GPS coordinates, bank keys, legal documents, all pointing to a property Dad had bought decades ago, supposedly empty, beneath San Francisco's financial district. Mateo leaned in. "What's that?" "Legacy," I whispered, realizing it wasn't just money, it was evidence, insurance, a secret empire Dad had built in parallel to Waveline, untouched by regulators, hidden from Kyle, hidden even from me until now. The countdown that had terrified me hours ago now had a secondary meaning. Whoever controlled these files could manipulate and that meant someone had access I didn't yet know. My phone buzzed. An encrypted message. Nicely done, but the throne has more claimants than you think. I scrolled, heart racing, recognizing the sender's signature coding style. It wasn't Luca, it wasn't Kyle, it was Dad. Every betrayal, every trust amendment, every Clause 7A tweak had been designed to test me, to see if I could outsmart the ghosts of my own bloodline. Rage mixed with exhilaration. I realized then that surviving was no longer just about protecting Mason, Waveline, or myself. It was about owning the narrative, owning the legacy, and controlling the empire Dad had left in pieces, waiting for someone smart enough, ruthless enough, and fast enough to claim it. I looked at Mateo. Get the team ready. This isn't over. We track every transaction, every person tied to these offshore networks. Luca, Kyle, Dad, they've just been notified that Henna Langston doesn't play by their rules. The storm outside softened, rain turning to mist over Palo Alto. And for the first time, I felt clarity in the chaos. I was untouchable, for now. But I knew better than anyone that power invites counterattack. I opened the last encrypted file, revealing contracts, emails, even private legal directives that, if released, could dismantle old money dynasties, foreign investments, and entrenched political allies. Mateo froze. This is bigger than Waveline, bigger than you imagined. I leaned back, fingers steepled, voice low. Then we go bigger. If they think Clause 7A was a game, they haven't seen the player. Across the mirrored servers, lines of code blinked in approval, as if the Empire itself recognized its new master. But even as I felt victory pulse through me, a subtle alert flickered. An unknown access traced to a private island in the Caribbean. Someone else, someone I hadn't anticipated, was watching, waiting, and probably smiling. And in that moment, I realized that Dad, Kyle, Luca, and even the law had been only the first layer of the storm. The real game, the one about inheritance, power, and blood, was only beginning. And Henna Langston was already 3 moves ahead. I woke to sunlight refracting through the Venetian blinds like liquid gold. But my mind was already 3 steps ahead, replaying every digital thread, every ghost I key, every move Luca, Kyle, or Dad could make next. Mateo and Lacey were already on the new secure system, mapping offshore accounts and private holdings that Clause 7A hadn't revealed yet. And then the alert hit, an unknown server ping traced to a private island in the Caribbean, IP anonymized through a chain of proxies longer than my last sprint through Waveline's firewall. My stomach dropped. Someone new, I said, voice cold. Someone smarter than we expected. Mateo leaned close. It's sophisticated. Full encryption, hardware-level obfuscation, and they've mirrored our system to monitor every move in real time. I smirked. Perfect. Then they're about to learn who they're dealing with. Hours passed in a blur of keystrokes and alerts. Every line of code, every international account, every hidden beneficiary, meticulously verified and quarantined. Ben Lacey froze. Henna, this access isn't just watching us, it's sending triggers. Look at this. On the screen, a cascade of automated scripts had been queued to activate in case of suspicious activity, fake mergers, shell company sales, and the most terrifying of all, coded clauses labeled Emergency Transfer, Clause 7A, Sublevel, Delta. My pulse hit the ceiling. Sublevel Delta. That wasn't supposed to exist. That's beyond Dad, beyond Luca, beyond Kyle. Whoever built this is thinking 5 years ahead. Mateo ran his hand through his hair. This is legacy-level sabotage. Someone wants total control of Waveline and the Langston Trust. Not just the money. They want the story, the Empire's narrative. I leaned in close to the screens, tracing nodes, IPs, and metadata. The Caribbean server flashed a single message. Welcome back, Henna. The game has evolved. And then a secondary window popped up. A live drone feed. White sand, turquoise water, palm tree swaying, and in the center, a shadowed figure watching a monitor like he or she knew exactly what I'd done the night before. Mateo whispered, "It's real time. They're observing every action you take." I felt a thrill of fear sharpen to focus. Then let's give them a show. Over the next 3 hours, we ran simulations, locked down every vulnerable node, and traced offshore beneficiaries. And then we found it, a hidden trail buried deep in Clause 7A, one Dad had coded with his own hand, labeled Final Arbitration. It wasn't just financial, it was reputational, political, and legal, a fail-safe designed to trigger worldwide exposure if anyone besides him or his successor touched the Empire. My stomach churned. This isn't just inheritance, it's global leverage. Whoever controls this controls everything Langston ever built. Lacey paled. Henna, it's tied to elections, corporate boards, offshore influence. You can't just flip a switch without consequences. I exhaled slowly, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Good. Then we do it carefully, one step at a time. That night, Mateo and I worked in shifts, scanning code, tracing proxies, isolating triggers, and then a message appeared on my burner phone. Encrypted, short, unmistakable. You've secured assets, but not truth. Look closer. The one you trust most isn't who they seem.
My eyes narrowed. Trust? You mean Dad? Mateo froze. It could be anyone. That's the point. Whoever set up the sub-level delta anticipated internal betrayal. I leaned back, pulse hammering. Then we bait them. Whoever's watching, whoever thinks they can manipulate us is about to learn how fast I move. Hours later, we isolated a series of financial keys leading to a second, shadow network. Hidden servers in Zurich, private keys in Singapore, encrypted instructions in the Cayman Islands. And amidst it, a single chilling line embedded in code comments. When she completes Clause 7A, reveal her reckoning. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about Kyle or Luca. This was someone orchestrating every move I'd made, every asset I'd protected, every countermeasure I'd designed, waiting for me to act. I glanced at Mateo. This is bigger than we thought. Whoever this is, they're playing a game inside my game. Then my phone buzzed again. Live video, no filter. A masked figure in a suit standing over a holographic map of the world's financial nodes. Caribbean island visible. He held up a microchip. Clause 7A isn't yours yet, Henna. Complete it incorrectly and the empire ends. Not just your money, not just Waveline, but the reputation, the legacy, the family. Tick-tock. My pulse skyrocketed. Then we make the move right, I whispered. I tapped the encrypted keys, isolating the shadow network from any active transfers, and redirected them into a secure vault Mateo and I could control. Each command raced through fiber optics, undersea cables, satellites, a digital ballet choreographed by adrenaline, precision, and sheer obsession. The masked figure's video froze mid-gesture. Mateo exhaled, muttering, "They're not expecting that." But I knew better. Clause 7A had layers still hidden, ones designed to test loyalty, intelligence, and ruthlessness. Whoever this masked watcher was, Dad? Another unknown heir? They were the final challenge. And when the digital cascade ended, when the offshore accounts were quarantined, when every beneficiary except me was locked out, the system blinked again. A final message, pulsing in stark white. Legacy secured. But the bloodline watches. 00, 59, 59. I swallowed, heart racing. Mateo looked at me. The countdown started again? I nodded, grim. Yes, but this time we control the first move. And as the servers hummed and the Caribbean sun glittered on the masked figure's island feed, I realized the ultimate truth. Winning Clause 7A wasn't just about money. It was about blood, empire, and surviving the storm my father, brother, and now an unknown shadow had built for me. The next step wouldn't be subtle. The next step would be war.
The servers hummed like living creatures, wires coiling under my fingertips, lights flickering with every keystroke as I stared at the masked figure on the Caribbean feed, the microchip still glinting in his hand. And I realized this wasn't just about finance. It was a test, a final gambit built by someone who had anticipated every move I'd make. Mateo leaned close, whispering, "Henna, if that chip goes into the vault, Clause 7A triggers globally in minutes." But I didn't flinch, tracing digital fingerprints across satellites, proxies, and encrypted keys until a single anomaly stood out, a signature only Dad could leave, a deliberate breadcrumb that connected the masked observer, the sublevel Delta scripts, and the original Clause 7A code. My pulse hammered as I understood the cruel brilliance. This was Dad's final game, and the masked figure wasn't just a hacker, a rival, or a puppet master. He was orchestrating my reckoning, testing if I had the cunning to survive, the ruthlessness to claim the empire he had built, and the bloodline he'd engineered. I activated a mirror environment, isolating every offshore account, rerouting every transfer into secure escrow, while the masked figure's voice, distorted through encryption, echoed, "Completed correctly or all collapses, Henna. Tick-tock." And I realized the irony. Dad's instructions were designed to teach me the ultimate lesson. The Langston Empire was never just money or tech. It was control, influence, and the ability to survive betrayal from those you loved most. Mateo swore, "She's insane!" But I ignored him. Fingers flying over keys, eyes scanning lines of code embedded with hidden instructions, personal directives, and contingencies, rerouting assets, encrypting proof of completion, and creating a digital chokehold on every sublevel delta trigger, while the masked figure's holographic map blinked, tracking, anticipating, but always a step behind my moves. Then, a new window opened on my terminal, revealing a live feed of the physical vault, doors slowly sliding open, and my stomach dropped. Kyle, smirking, holding a replica chip, almost mocking me. "Think you've won? Checkmate isn't a concept you understand yet." And I realized this was the last layer of the gauntlet, a live test forcing me to coordinate digital mastery with real-world precision, every second a potential disaster. I instructed Mateo to initiate remote lock protocols, redirecting the vault's access to a failsafe node. And as Kyle's grin faltered, the masked figure removed his hood on the video feed. Dad. Unmistakable. Older. Sharper. Eyes glinting with the thrill of a chess master who'd cornered all his pieces to test the final queen. "Henna," he said, voice calm but cutting, "you've navigated the traps, avoided the betrayals, and survived my sublevel delta. Clause 7A is yours to claim. But remember, the Empire is not just wealth. It's what you do with it, who you trust, and how far you'll go to protect it." I exhaled, realizing the ultimate paradox. Dad had built this labyrinth to test my ruthlessness, my intelligence, and my loyalty, forcing me to confront Kyle, the offshore networks, and the shadowy manipulations in real time. And now that I held the power to finalize Clause 7A, I had to decide, not just which accounts to lock, which beneficiaries to authorize, but whether to forgive, retaliate, or remake the Empire in my image. My finger hovered over the biometric scanner as the countdown ticked 00312, the masked figure's island feed blinking, Kyle struggling with the lock, Mateo tense, and I pressed completing the final verification, activating Clause 7A, and the system pulsed, white-hot, signaling transfer of authority to me. Immediately, every offshore node acknowledged my command, every shell company locked, every digital asset rerouted under my control, and the masked figure on the video feed froze, Dad's expression inscrutable, Kyle glaring but powerless, while the countdown reset blinking, "New challenge incoming, 005959, and I looked at Mateo, voice low. Dad built the Empire, but I just claimed the throne. But even as I spoke, a new alert pinged. Encrypted coordinates, IP traces, and a signature I didn't recognize, yet familiar enough to chill me to the bone. Someone else was watching, waiting, and the final, ultimate orchestrator beyond even Dad, beyond even Clause 7A, was about to make their move. My pulse raced, eyes narrowing at the screens, and I realized the war was far from over. Surviving Dad, Kyle, and Luca was only the prelude, the real game, the one that could decide the Langston legacy forever, was just beginning.
The moment I pressed the final chimes and felt Clause 7A pulse through the servers, the world outside became a blur of code, alerts, and encrypted signals racing faster than my own heartbeat. Mateo and Lacey flanked me, tense but silent, as I traced every digital ripple, confirming that every offshore account, every shell company, every hidden beneficiary now bowed to my authority. But even as I exhaled, the encrypted alert pinged again, coordinates lighting up a place I didn't recognize, IP masked through a dozen layers, with a signature almost too precise, too intimate, like someone who knew every move I'd ever made. My stomach turned. This was no longer Dad, no longer Kyle, no longer Luca. It was the architect beyond all of them, the one who had anticipated Clause 7A, sublevel Delta, and even Dad's final tests. Someone orchestrating from the shadows, pulling the strings of an empire that I had thought I fully controlled. I tapped the coordinates into a secure feed, the display revealing a private compound, Black glass reflecting the Caribbean sun, drones circling, guards visible but unaware of our digital infiltration, and I knew I was facing a threat capable of undoing everything I had fought for in minutes. Mateo whispered, "Henna, this isn't just finance. It's global leverage, political sway, corporate control. This person can wipe entire networks in a heartbeat." I nodded, scanning every line of code, tracing every fiber optic link, decrypting messages that had been planted to mislead, every anomaly revealing layers of strategy, foresight, and ruthlessness that only someone with intimate knowledge of the Langston Empire could orchestrate. I realized then that the masked observer, now revealed as the ultimate architect, had been playing a game inside a game, letting Dad, Kyle, and even Luca act as pawns, testing me, watching me, gauging my instincts, and ensuring that only someone worthy could claim the legacy. And the more I dug, the more I understood that Clause 7A wasn't just a transfer of wealth. It was a blueprint for ultimate control, combining finance, influence, and leverage into a weaponized empire that could be wielded globally. Every alert, every drone feed, every hidden backdoor revealed that the orchestrator had planted contingencies designed to punish missteps, to exploit hesitation, and to ensure that whoever claimed the throne had earned it in full. I initiated a multi-layered digital assault, creating false nodes, rerouting transactions, encrypting the vaults beyond recognition, all while coordinating with Mateo and Macy in real time, our movements precise, surgical, as if we were performing a digital heist inside the very architecture of the Langston legacy. Then a single encrypted video popped up on my terminal, the figure stepping forward, unmasking slowly. The ultimate orchestrator was someone I had trusted, someone who had operated in silence for years, observing my father's empire, my family, and me, waiting for the perfect moment to test the air. My pulse spiked, adrenaline screaming as they spoke. "Henna Langston, you've claimed Clause 7A, but control is more than code, more than money. It's influence, perception, and ruthlessness. Do you have what it takes to survive what comes next?" I swallowed hard, fingers hovering over the keys, knowing every choice from this point could cement the empire or destroy it in minutes. And as the global feeds blanked with my authority, yet hinted at vulnerabilities only the architect knew, I realized the final war wasn't just against family, rivals, or codes. It was against the one person who had engineered every move, every test, and every secret, ensuring that only the truly cunning could survive the Langston legacy. My eyes narrowed at the feed, heart hammering, and I whispered to Mateo, "This is it. The final player has entered the board." The ultimate orchestrator, a hidden mastermind beyond Dad, Kyle, or Luca, has revealed themselves, and Henna now faces the final, high-stakes battle for control of the Langston Empire. The moment the ultimate orchestrator revealed themselves, every nerve in my body ignited. This was no longer a test, no longer a chase through servers or shadow networks. Mateo and Lacey flanked me, eyes wide, as I traced the figure's digital signature across satellites, offshore nodes, and encrypted fibers, realizing that every move they made mirrored my own, anticipating my instinctive countermeasures. The figure spoke again, voice calm, deliberate. "Henna Langston, every decision you've made has been observed, every victory preempted, and every trust exploited. But the Empire isn't just about surviving, it's about knowing who will betray you next." And I felt the weight of years, of secrets, of Dad's cryptic designs pressing down, knowing that this was the true Clause 7A test.
If this story touched your heart or made you feel every twist of pain and justice, don't forget to hit like and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. Your support means everything and keeps these emotions alive on screen. And before you go, leave your valuable thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how this story made you feel.